Hi guys, it's Wax here from Wrestling with Memories, enjoying the last part of my holiday here in Doha, representing my WrestleMania t-shirt class purchase from the WrestleMania Superstore at the Las Vegas Convention Center just before WrestleMania 41. As a reminder, Fash and I went to WrestleMania, our first ever WrestleMania. We had an absolutely amazing time in Vegas and watching WrestleMania live in person. Met some really great people. Go check out our videos where we got some fan reactions straight after the event. And go check out our reaction videos after each match that we put together recently. Now, off a different topic, other than WWE, AEW just held their mega pay-per-view Double or Nothing event this past weekend. An absolutely super show from all accounts. I haven't seen it in full yet, but the wrestling on the show was tremendous, which is no surprise. All AEW pay-per-views have typically had top matches from all the top guys like Will Ospreay, typically always providing a 5-star match pretty much anytime he wrestles. So, great match. And then Anarchy in the Arena, again, another top match apparently. So do check that out. I will check it out when I get back home. But I mean, really what I wanted to talk about today was, AEW in general, who have had maybe not the greatest 12 to 18 months. A lot of people have been very negative over the storyline, the booking, the Death Riders angle. Despite, as I said, the pay-per-view is always producing top matches. So what is it that will take AEW to the next level? Is there another level that they could achieve? Or is there maybe a ceiling on just how well they could do as the second wrestling organization? In my opinion, like AEW, probably a little bit, criticized over the top. Maybe the criticism is, especially on Tony Khan. And to be fair, myself and Fash, we probably had a bit of fun at Tony's expense as well. But I'll give it to Tony. He's a diehard wrestling fan, right? So he's doing what he's always loved to do, and all the power to him. I do think sometimes the AEW wrestlers and Tony himself, just the way they come across, and how they're always trashing WWE or always pointing to how they're better than WWE or going to take over the wrestling business. I think it's a bit hard for for a WWE fan to take. So that's why maybe some of that negativity is earned from AEW. But again, as I said, the wrestling's always top notch. Guys like Will Ospreay, Kenny Omega, even John Moxley, they're always put on really good matches, and they've given other wrestlers a chance, like Adam Page, who's my favourite AEW wrestler. MJF obviously has been tremendous throughout most of his run, maybe had got a bit stale up till recently. Will Ospreay, Ricochet, Swerve Strickland, all guys that perform week in, week out in the ring. But what will it take AEW getting to the next level? Will they ever be able to push WWE as the top wrestling organization? I still think that there's a limited audience for wrestling in general, and that's why AEW's fan base may never actually increase above where they're at just now, where their TV ratings are getting somewhere between 5 and 700,000 viewers a week. That's not including any subscribers or viewers on their max streaming platform. But that audience number hasn't really changed. It's gone down from their initial couple of years, from what was up to 1 million almost, and it's steadily been in that range of 5 to 700,000. So I think there's a ceiling, which is unfortunate maybe for AEW, but wrestling also goes in cycles, and we're at kind of a peak point, I think, from a WWE perspective anyway, and that would naturally mean that all wrestling maybe is peaking a little bit, and I think maybe we're just at the other side of that peak now. So I would expect over the next few years maybe a bit of a down cycle for wrestling in general, and that's going to impact AEW as well as WWE. One thing that somebody did note recently was the lack of house shows that WWE are putting on gives an opportunity to people like AEW and other companies to try and put on more events in areas that maybe haven't seen wrestling as often, and therefore draw in some big audiences and see something new. I think if you're a new fan to wrestling in general, you would have a lot of fun watching an AEW show, whether that's live in person or on the TV. Again, their matches are always really good. Something like Anarchy in the Arena is a lot of fun to watch. A lot of mayhem, chaos, non-stop, and that really should call to a lot of viewers, whether they're new or old. One thing I would recommend AEW stops doing is stops mentioning WWE. I think the wrestlers don't need to constantly try and bag WWE or the talent and how, for example, Will Ospreay saying that he's the best, that he doesn't enjoy watching WWE wrestling. That's fine. Well, you can enjoy watching a certain type of wrestling, and you can continue to enjoy doing your 5-star matches, according to Dave Meltzer. But you've got to have respect for the fans out there already. There's a lot of WWE fans who have watched that product for 20, 30, 40 years, and they want wrestling a certain way, and that's not what AEW provides them. So that's where WWE it does, and clearly WWE are doing something that works for them, and that is really successful, because they're getting a reasonable audience on TV. They're filling out events and making more money than they've ever made before. That's not to say that WWE should be everybody's cup of tea. It might not be. The wrestling there is a certain format, whereas AEW does follow a completely different style in ring, and that's fine. Maybe that is the differentiator between AEW and WWE. But the talent have got to stop referencing WWE and referencing how amazing AEW is to work for, and how Tony does this and Tony does that, and how they are so happy being in AEW versus WWE. Sure, be happy and say you're happy working at AEW, but don't always refer to WWE. And I know they're oftentimes just responding to questions, but have a bit of respect for WWE, the organisation that's kept so many people in work over the downtime, the good times. Nobody's employed as many people as WWE has or ever will over the years. Think about all the workers, behind the scenes, the TV people, everybody from the bottom person sitting at the ring to the talent in the ring, to Triple H, to Vince O'Neill, etc., etc. So, have a bit of respect in WWE's name. Enjoy what you're doing as an AEW superstar. Keep putting on your great matches, and that will draw in an audience, definitely. I don't think they're ever going to, I don't think they're very soon going to go over the 1 million mark ever again, but that's not to say AEW can't be successful in their own right, and they are successful. Clearly, they've got a TV show, they've got a streaming platform. Tony must be making some money back on his return now, according to Dave Meltzer anyway. How successful, we don't know. Somebody like Eric Bischoff doesn't really like a lot of what AEW does, and I think a lot of old school people like Jim Cornette will also be very negative about AEW, but that's just because AEW is a bit different to the standard wrestling format that we are so used to. So good luck to AEW. They'll keep putting on excellent pay-per-views. Their matches will always be good. The storyline could definitely be tightened up a little bit. They need a couple of superstars, guys that are at the a level above others, and I think somebody like Kenny Omega is definitely that superstar. John Moxley potentially was, before this whole Death Rider saga sort of maybe brought him down a little bit, even though I actually like the concept of the Death Riders, but maybe it's not been pulled off in the right manner. Somebody like Will Ospreay, again, the talent in the ring on its own is going to carry him a long way. And then as I said, my favourite guy, Adam Hangman Page, who I think is a summary of what AEW could be at its best, and he's the guy, if anybody, who could maybe dethrone John Moxley in the near future. Though really, if you think about it, it should be Kenny Omega, who is the number one, I think, babyface in AEW history. So looking forward to what AEW produce going forward, especially from a storyline point of view. You've got to understand storylines are what brings in the audience, not the wrestling itself. Wrestling can be amazing, and it always usually is amazing, but how many 5-star matches can you watch, without eventually getting bored of what's going on in the ring if there's not a detailed story, an empathy, a strong feeling behind some of the talent behind the matches. So, good luck to AEW. We'll still be making fun of Tony Khan every now and again, I'm sure, but overall, I think wrestling will definitely benefit from having two strong wrestling organizations, both for the talent and for the fans. And yeah, let's see a good, healthy amount of competition. Let's not rely on the internet wrestling community too much in terms of where each company is at. There's no independence there on Twitter, for example. It's just a joke, really. Some of the fans on there really tedious stuff going on week in, week out. But yeah, good luck to both, and do watch Double or Nothing, and do check out the rest of our podcast as well. See you soon.